Since the beginning of time, humanity has always sought to understand the voice of God. In crucial moments, God chose to manifest himself directly, bringing guidance, promises, and even corrections. These moments are true rarities in biblical history, and each of them carries profound significance for faith and understanding our purpose. Today we will explore the 7 occasions when God spoke directly to humans. These encounters were not just conversations but milestones in the lives of those who heard the divine voice. They reveal God's love, wisdom, and often his desire to guide humanity along a path of faith. In each of these stories, we will see how God's presence transformed lives, changed destinies, and deeply impacted the course of history. As we delve into these accounts, we invite you to reflect on what these messages still have to teach us today. Get ready for a journey of faith and mystery. Now let's begin our journey with the story of Abraham, the patriarch of faith, who heard God's call for something far greater than he could ever imagine. God and Abraham, the patriarch's call. In a moment of silence and solitude, God speaks to Abraham, calling him to leave his homeland, his family, and everything he knew to go toward an unknown destination. Imagine the impact of this call. For Abraham, a man already advanced in age, this command was both a challenge and a promise. God says to Abraham, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. This call not only establishes a covenant between God and Abraham, but marks the beginning of a story that would impact generations and give rise to a nation. Abraham does not hesitate. He obeys and departs, guided solely by God's promise. This encounter transforms Abraham's life entirely, laying the foundation of his faith to the point that he is known as the father of all who believe. And so, with an act of obedience, Abraham initiates a new era. This example of faith leads us to another extraordinary moment, where God manifests himself to another leader on an equally grand mission. Now let's move to the story of Moses and the call at the burning bush. Years after Abraham's call, God chooses another man for a special mission. Moses, raised as an Egyptian prince, now lives as a shepherd in the desert. And there, among the sands and silence, he sees something he could never have imagined: a burning bush, aflame but not consumed. Curious, Moses approaches, and a powerful voice calls him by name, "Moses, Moses!" Exodus chapter 3, verse 4. This encounter at the burning bush is the first time God speaks to Moses, revealing a grand mission. He is to be the liberator of the people of Israel, freeing them from slavery in Egypt. During this conversation, God introduces himself to Moses as I Am, a name that reflects divine eternity and self-sufficiency. Moses hesitates, questions, but God encourages him, showing signs of power and promising his presence. From this moment, Moses becomes the chosen leader, guiding God's people through the desert toward the promised land. Moses' story shows us the power of the divine call and the transformation it can bring. Now, let us continue with a young boy named Samuel, who heard God's voice on a quiet night. God and Samuel. The voice in the night. Samuel was still a boy when he heard God's voice for the first time. He lived in the temple, serving under the guidance of the priest Eli. One quiet night, as he was resting, he heard his name, "Samuel, Samuel." Confused, he thought Eli was calling him and ran to him, only to discover that was not the case. After being called 3 times, Eli realizes it is the Lord speaking to the boy and instructs Samuel to respond, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And so Samuel does, opening his heart to hear God's words. This call marks the beginning of Samuel's journey as a prophet of Israel, someone who would guide the people and speak in God's name. Samuel's story teaches us the importance of being attentive and willing to listen to the divine voice. From Samuel, we move to another prophet who experienced God's presence in an unexpected, quiet way. Now let's go to the story of Elijah and the still, small voice. The prophet Elijah, after a great victory over the prophets of Baal, finds himself in a moment of despair. Fleeing from Queen Jezebel, he hides on Mount Horeb, where he seeks God's presence. And God appears, but not in the way Elijah expected. First, a powerful wind tears through the mountains, but God is not in the wind. Then an earthquake, but God is not in the earthquake. Then fire, but God is not in the fire. Finally, a still, small voice. And it is in this quietness that Elijah recognizes God's presence. Kings chapter 19, verses 11 to 12. God speaks to Elijah in a gentle and peaceful way, reminding us that his presence does not always manifest in grand signs. Sometimes God speaks in silence, waiting for us to be still and attentive. Strengthened by this experience, Elijah returns to his prophetic mission. Now we move to Solomon, who received an extraordinary divine offer. God and Solomon, the offer of wisdom. After the death of his father, King David, Solomon assumes the throne of Israel. One day, as he sleeps, God appears to Solomon in a dream and offers him anything he desires. Solomon, instead of asking for wealth or long life, asks for wisdom to govern the people with justice. Kings chapter 3, verse 9. God is pleased with this request and grants Solomon unparalleled wisdom, as well as wealth and honor. This moment marks the beginning of a prosperous and just reign, where Solomon becomes known for his wisdom and ability to resolve conflicts. This encounter teaches us the importance of asking for what is right and seeking what is truly valuable. Solomon's story leads us to Isaiah, a prophet who saw God's glory and was called to carry his message to the people. God and Isaiah, the vision of the heavenly throne. The prophet Isaiah has an impressive vision of God in the temple, surrounded by seraphim, with the temple filled with smoke and the angels proclaiming, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty." Isaiah chapter 6, verse 3. Faced with divine glory, Isaiah feels unworthy, but God purifies his lips and calls him to be his messenger. When God asks, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Isaiah responds with courage, "Here am I, send me." Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. This vision marks the beginning of Isaiah's prophetic mission, through which he would deliver messages of warning and hope to the people of Israel. Isaiah's experience teaches us about readiness to serve and the impact of divine presence. From Isaiah, we move forward to the road to Damascus, where Paul experienced a unique and powerful transformation. God and Paul, the call on the road to Damascus. Saul of Tarsus, a persecutor of Christians, finds himself on the road to Damascus with the mission of arresting followers of Christ. Suddenly, an intense light surrounds him, and he hears a voice, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" It was Jesus manifesting himself in a powerful way. This encounter completely transforms Saul, who then becomes known as Paul, and goes on to become one of the greatest evangelists in Christian history. Paul's experience shows the transformative power of an encounter with God and the divine ability to change lives and destinies. Now we reflect on these encounters and what they teach us about our own spiritual journey. Conclusion and spiritual reflection. These encounters with God are not just stories from the past, but powerful reminders that the Creator is always present and willing to guide those who seek Him. Each of these men had their lives transformed and received a unique mission, but all were called to serve a greater purpose. May we reflect on these moments and seek a closer relationship with God. When He calls us, we need to be ready to respond with faith and obedience, as Abraham, Moses, Samuel, and so many others did. If you felt this video touched your faith and inspired your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. May each of us be attentive to God's voice and ready to respond, "Here I am, Lord." May God bless you and your journey of faith.